Hey guys, so today we're on chapter 12 again in my website, and we are on chapter 20.2 in your textbook. We're going to be talking about lymphatic vessels. So let's start off with your lymph capillary structure. So lymph capillaries are the smallest vessels in your lymphatic system, and they have cells that overlap, creating something called mini valves, and they also have collagen fibers, or collagen filaments really, on them that anchor them to the vessel so that when interstitial fluid comes into the lymphatic vessel, into the lymphatic capillary, it doesn't collapse. So let's take a look at this picture. As you can see, there are vessels right here that intertwine with your blood capillaries, and those are your lymphatic capillaries. So your blood leaks out interstitial fluid because it has to exchange. It leaks out blood fluid, not necessarily the blood itself, but blood fluid, mainly plasma. But it leaks out that so that it can exchange molecules with other cells, because the molecules have to get out of the capillary through osmosis. So there's some fluid that has to leak from the blood vessels. So 85% of that blood fluid will go back in, but 15% will actually go into your lymphatic capillaries. And your lymphatic capillaries send that interstitial fluid back into your blood, and we'll see that later. But right here, here's a little close-up. As you can see, there are cells that overlap each other, creating something called mini valves. And there are also collagen filaments that anchor them to the vessel. And what happens is when there's the interstitial fluid pressure on the outside is greater than the lymph pressure on the inside, then it'll open these mini valves and go in. But when the pressure inside, the lymph pressure inside of the lymphatic vessel is greater than the interstitial fluid pressure here, then what's going to happen is that these lymph mini valves will actually close. And so that's basically a closed-ended system, but it's a one-way system to the heart. Anyway, so now here's another type of lymph capillary that needs to be mentioned. It's called a lacteal. And these are special because they are in your digestive system, specifically in your small intestine. And the lymph that is in the lacteals, or lymph that are in the lacteals? I don't know. Grammar people correct me here, but if the lymph that is in the lacteals is actually called chyme, or not chyme, chyle. It says chyme in the presentation. I don't know why. It should say chyle, C-H-Y-L-E, because the interstitial fluid on the outside of the lacteal contains fats. So let's take a look at this picture. This villus in your small intestine. If you don't know what villus is, don't worry about it. We haven't gone over the digestive system yet. But this villus here has capillaries, but it also has lacteals. And these lacteals will take interstitial fluid, but they'll also take fats from that interstitial fluid as well, making the lymph in here a somewhat like creamy-ish type color compared to the straw-colored lymph from other lymph capillaries and lymph vessels. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about lymph collecting vessels. So when lymph capillaries merge, they become lymph collecting vessels because they collect lymph from lymph capillaries. They also have 3 layers just like your blood vessels, but they're not as distinct. So the vessels that you find in your blood vessels, or not the vessels, the layers or tunics found in your blood vessels will be the same as the layers or tunics found in your lymph collecting vessels. However, they're thinner in your lymph collecting vessels, therefore they're not as distinct. And they have valves as well, just like veins. And the distance from one valve to another in your lymph collecting vessels is called a lymphangion. And we'll see that in the picture. I'm sorry this picture is so blurry, I couldn't find a better one. But you see these lymph capillaries merging, then that means this here is a lymph collecting vessel. And the distance from one valve to another, right here, if it showed the other valve, is called a lymphangion. And this picture actually mentions a few things that I didn't mention, but it mentions that the vessels typically travel along veins or arteries, and vessels get larger as vessels get larger, they generally have more smooth muscle. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about lymphatic trunks. So when lymph collecting vessels join together, they make lymphatic trunks. So there are 9 major lymphatic trunks, and they're named after the region in which they're found. So there are trunks that are found in pairs. So there's one trunk on the left side and a matching trunk on the right side. But there's also one unpaired trunk, which we'll see in the picture. So the paired trunks are the jugular trunks. So you see the right jugular trunk here and the left jugular trunk there. The lymphatic or the subclavian trunks. So there's a right subclavian trunk here and the left subclavian trunk here. And then there's the bronchomediastinal trunk. So the right bronchomediastinal trunk here and the left bronchomediastinal trunk there. Then there is one trunk that is unpaired. There's the intestinal trunk right here. And it doesn't have a pair on the left side. So just to recap, so the paired trunks are the jugular trunks, subclavian trunks, and the bronchomediastinal trunks. And the unpaired trunk is the intestinal trunk. So now the last thing that we need to talk about are the lymphatic ducts, is the lymphatic ducts. So they are the largest lymphatic vessels. And there are 2 of them. There's the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct. So they take in the lymph from all of the other lymph vessels, and they drain it into the subclavian veins. So the right lymphatic duct feeds the lymph into the right subclavian vein, and the thoracic duct feeds into the left subclavian vein. So we'll see this in the picture. So right here we have your right lymphatic duct, and it takes lymph from the upper right side of your body. So the right thorax, your right neck, the right side of your cephalic area, and the right side of your head, and also your right arm. So it takes lymph from there, and it feeds it into your right subclavian trunk, right subclavian duct, and right subclavian vein. And then here's your left thoracic duct, which feeds into the left subclavian vein here, but it actually starts right here at the cisterna chili, and it moves all the way up into your left subclavian vein. And it takes takes lymph from the rest of your body. So the left side of your head, the left side of your neck, the left side of your chest, your left arm, and then after that, your whole abdominal area, and all of your legs. So it takes lymph from those areas. And I think that's pretty much it. We're all done. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.